Artists, today I'm going to demonstrate how to draw a fall-inspired tree. Notice that I have some goose paper under my art paper, and I'm going to write my name in the corner and my class code in the other corner. Just let me focus my camera. There we go. I'm using a black marker, and I'm going to start by drawing my tree trunk on the bottom with two curved lines, and then I'm going to color in that tree trunk with that black marker. Using my goose paper, I'm going to color off of my paper so that I get every single part of that tree trunk. Now I'm going to create what looks like the letter Y, and then I'm going to turn those lines into shapes and color them in. Notice how they make a line with a pointy end. Then I'm going to draw a letter Y on the end of those two branches, and same thing, I'm going to turn those lines into shapes by coloring them in, making them a little bit thicker. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Now notice I'm doing the same thing to the ends of those branches, creating a letter Y and thickening those lines by coloring them in a bit. Keep adding branches by creating letter Ys on the end of each branch. You can decide how tall you want your tree to be. Those final branches can just be lines. You don't really have to thicken those. It makes sense that the branches at the end are a little bit thinner than the branches that are connected to the tree trunk. I'm going to create a simple pattern for the details of my tree to make it look like an autumn tree, but also to make it look kind of interesting and creative. I'm taking some crayons first, and I'm just making some circle shapes, some swirly lines, overlapping warm colors. I started with yellow, the lightest color, and then I went over it with some orange, and then lastly some red. I'm going to do the same thing, but I want to show you what that looks like with oil pastels. Remember, oil pastels are different than crayons. Pastels are made with oils and crayons are made from wax, so you can see the colors are much more vibrant with the oil pastels. I'm doing the same thing, starting with the lighter color yellow, going over it with orange, and then making some swirls on top of that with red. These are warm colors, and warm colors are what we see in our autumn trees. So that's the color I'm going for. Also notice that I went right over those tree branches. Since I colored them in with black, I can take my oil pastels or my colors and just make this circle pattern right on top of the tree branches. Next, let's see what it looks like with markers. Doing the same technique, but this time with the markers, and you can see the difference. When you're adding your circle pattern, think about placement and composition. Composition is how you arrange your artwork. So I wanted to make sure that my swirl pattern or my circle pattern fills in the top of this tree picture nice and full. I don't want to leave too many empty spaces. Let's see what this looks like with the paint sticks. Starting with the yellow, the lightest color first. Oh, the paint sticks look very bright, and I'm overlapping right on top of those tree branches. That also plays with space, because when we overlap, we are thinking about the space of our paper and our art. All right, here comes the red on top. Oh yes, very vibrant and bright. I like the look of that. I'm looking at this picture, and I think I need to add some balance in here. The right side of my picture looks a little bit heavier, so I'm going to add one more swirl on this side with the oil pastels, just so it looks a little bit more even. This is how you can balance your artwork, by placing the swirl pattern evenly across your whole picture. Now, another option is to paint over your picture once you have the swirl pattern. This works best with the oil pastels and the crayons because pastels and crayons resist water. And since we're painting with water paints or tempera cakes, the oil pastel and crayons will push away the paints when you paint over it. Here's what that looks like. So you can see I can still see my circle pattern even though I'm painting on top of it. I'm blending the colors right on top. If I'm going right over to the edge, make sure you have a newspaper or a goose paper underneath your painting. Painting over the markers, however, may not work so well since the markers are washable, but we can experiment. You can see that as I'm painting over the markers, they start to blend in with the paints. And that might be an interesting experiment to do. I'm going to also experiment over the paint sticks and see how that looks. I think that actually looks lovely. As I was making my artwork, I was thinking about the elements of art. I see lines in my tree branches and tree trunk. I see colors, warm colors I chose for the leaves. I see shape in the circles. I see texture in the overlapping of all those swirly lines. I also see space and how I use the space of my paper. I'm looking forward to seeing your fall autumn trees.